Here we are again, YouTube. Ian Porter here. My friends, the birds. Anyway, continuation from last time. I mentioned that I was charged with 3 crimes, all the 3 crimes totaling up to 9 years of imprisonment, and that's what I've been charged with. Documents have been served, etc. The court's case was last year in October, and this case has been tried at court. I'm now at a point where I'm appealing the sentence that was given, but I'll give you some information about what took place. Anyway, during the course of all these 4 years, many documents have been submitted, divorce documentation, etc., etc. There's been some calamities with things on my side where documentation that I gave as evidence wasn't produced, didn't go through the system, but at least I got the social services report from England added, and at least that was added as legitimate evidence. Some of my other stuff, I won't even go into that. But anyway, so many documents that was written were things saying that the children are even afraid of me, that there's a risk to their health and their well-being because of me, many grave things. But one thing that is notable is that the children weren't allowed to give any witness or testimony. They had them seen by psychiatrists. I also had to be seen by psychiatrists, and also my ex-wife, to sort of make sure that nobody's crazy. Nothing was reported that I'm crazy. The children were seen, but they weren't asked any specific questions about, are they afraid of me? Have I ever forced them to do anything like that? None of those questions were asked. They just dealt in a sort of questions to look like it was to steer to sort of get a result according to what they was looking for. And I'll mention that in a summary from the sentence. But basically, going into the court, what was interesting again is that the children weren't allowed to present any kind of answers to all the things that I've been accused of doing to them. So their voice was not heard. So it's only my ex-wife's voice was heard. Whatever her accusations were made wasn't corroborated by the children whatsoever. They were totally taken out of the picture, because if they weren't, there would have been a different story that would come out of all of this. So anyway, on the day going to the courts, surprisingly, they then came to offer me what was supposed to be a sweet deal, maybe. Oh, I'm got 9 years potential prison sentence, 4 years for perverting the course of justice, 2 years for harassment with phone calls, and 3 years for psychological abuse of the 2 children due to religion, and also her, because I'm fanatical and I've been doing things fanatical that has kind of subverted their minds and caused all kind of problems to them. So at the day of the trial, I was then offered a deal, what I thought was a sweet deal. Right, you won't go to prison, but as long as you plead guilty to all 3 crimes, you'll get, because of your first time offence, you'll get a 2-year suspended sentence, won't go to prison, and you still won't see children for a certain amount of time, but you won't go to prison, and you'll do some community service, whatever. Or you risk going on trial, and you got potential of 9 years. Now, I had a few people with me at the time come to give witnesses, some Christians, some non-Christians, and some were saying, look, don't be careful, don't be too rushed at this, maybe a good deal. And I can understand that from a good motivation. They were seeing this whole 9 years not going to prison, it's like a no-brainer. Take the deal, take the sweet deal. It's not a sweet deal to me, because it would be a lie if I admitted guilt. It would set a precedence of that I can't be trusted even by my children, that I did admit to something. So if I admit to something, then in the future I can't say, oh, I admitted it because I wanted to take a sweet deal, a good deal. It's not a good deal, it's a lie. And so what? I'm afraid of, and I'm going to be afraid of a prison sentence, afraid of torture, persecution, and so I'm going to admit to something I didn't do just because I don't like what sounds like a consequence of potential 9 years. So it was not even remotely a possibility, even though, you know, my lawyer and other people are trying to think that's something good to take. It was not even close to. You couldn't even pay me the riches of Bill Gates to say, take this deal and you won't go to prison and you won't get a record, but you got 10 billion. There's no way they could buy anything from me, whether it's with money or with the fact I'm not going to jail. So anyway, so no deal was taken, went to court, and then the trial took place. And again, so I will go into what took place in the trial and or some of the questions that was asked of me and the witnesses that were Christians, specifically the Christian witnesses. They asked very specific questions of those people, not the other people who weren't Christians, just to show how the religious liberty issues that was with even the questions that was asked. So I will go into that tomorrow when I see you again.